Hello and welcome to the Responsive Family Sleep Podcast. I'm your host, Kim Hawley, holistic sleep coach, lactation consultant, peaceful parenting educator, and mom. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by all the conflicting sleep info, frustrated with sleep information that just plain felt wrong, or searched desperately for a truly gentle and responsive sleep approach, then you are in the right place. In each episode, we'll be answering your most pressing baby and toddler sleep questions, busting those sleep myths, and helping you understand truly developmental, biologically normal baby and toddler sleep, plus encouraging you to trust your intuition along the way. Let's get started. Hello and welcome back to the podcast. We are going to talk about those long, prolonged wakes in the middle of the night. They're often called split nights. I have a whole really popular blog post on it that I will link in the show notes if you want that sort of more systematic, more organized way of thinking through it. But I want to talk about it because I've been talking about it lately with quite a few clients. And so it's often how I decide what to share on the podcast. You know, what have I been talking about a lot lately? So if you ever want me to have a podcast episode on a particular topic, definitely let me know. I also love when I hear from y'all and you say, hey, Kim, have you thought about a podcast on this? Or even a specific question. I've thought about that, doing like a Q&A episode. But I guess that's really a whole different topic, right? But these long wakes in the middle of the night, right? I have a couple clients right now struggling with them, and they can be so frustrating. You know, a wake, it happens, we soothe, we feed. You know, in general, they should be kind of back to sleep in about 15, 20 minutes, maybe faster. Often they are dozing off while we are feeding them or soothing them, and so we are awake for longer. That's like a typical wake. And then we have these wakes where they are wide awake. They are alert and they are awake for 45, 60 minutes, maybe 90 minutes, maybe a couple hours in the middle of the night. They are tough and there are a lot of reasons they can happen, right? And so when we're thinking about why are these things happening, I think the first thing that's helpful to think about is, are they actually wide awake? Or are they falling asleep in our arms and waking up when we transfer them? And then we're repeating that, 3, 4, 5, whatever times over until they finally get into a deep enough sleep, which is a bit different. In that case, they're falling asleep, transferring them is disrupting their sleep, and they're back awake again. And so I would consider that more fitful sleep and failed transfers than actual split nights, right? An actual prolonged wake where they're awake, and they're generally happy. They're ready to party. It's time to practice crawling. It's time to practice pulling up. It's time to babble. It's time to wiggle around. And you're just like, oh my gosh, can we please go to sleep, right? And so one of the most common times these happen are around big developmental leaps. So a baby learning to roll, a baby learning to crawl, a baby learning to pull up, the baby learning to walk, a toddler with a big language leap. Really common actually in the sort of older baby 8 months through early toddlerhood timeframe, because we have all the, rolling, I guess I threw in there. Maybe that's a bit premature, but all of those happen, right, in those older baby and younger toddler months. So often we see longer wakes when their brains are really busy and they just want to practice, right, their new skills. We can also see them when we have like sleep distribution issues, or we are expecting them to sleep longer than their body needs. And so those can kind of go hand in hand, right? It could be that their night is too long if we're aiming for a 12-hour night. It could be that we're expecting them to sleep 15 hours in total, but they really only need closer to 13, 14, because most of the apps out there aim for the high end of the sleep ranges rather than actually giving you that full range. So that happens. I see that happen often. Maybe it means they're not building enough sleep pressure ahead of bedtime, or we're expecting too much daytime sleep. All these can contribute to these long wakes. Maybe we're letting them sleep in, so their morning wake up time is really messy, and so Split nights are not actually unhealthy. They are actually a healthy way to sleep, but they just don't really work in modern life very well. So thinking about sleep pressure and sleep distribution is a big piece of regular split nights, of regular long wakes. It's like, why are they not tired enough to go back to sleep? Yes, development could be the answer. And sometimes the answer is because we're giving them too much overall sleep, and that sleep is not distributed in a way that they have enough of a drive to go back to sleep throughout most of their night, right? So depending on what their sleep timings look like, there's a lot of play here, right? More awake time, more activity, less nap time overall, moving where those naps happen, moving bedtime, shortening the night. Some of those will work, some of those aren't going to apply, right? So that is where I'm thinking. I'm often thinking about sleep totals and sleep distribution. And the only way to know is to test it out, right? Our kiddos don't come with a formula that says, I need 14 hours of sleep at 6 months, right? I need 12 hours of sleep as a young toddler. Like, they don't come with that. So a lot of times I'll have families like, how do you know if that's it? And I'm like, well, we don't, right? This is what I'm seeing. This is a common cause. Let's test it out, right? And let's test it out for a certain amount of time and then reflect on what we're seeing. So that's always on my mind with those long nights. The next thing is about regulation, right? I'd say that's the next big bucket area is like, are they awake for a long time in the middle of the night because they amp up so significantly, so quickly, that then it takes a long time for them to settle. I definitely see this with some kiddos. And again, it's a bit of a different wake than like the happy, playful awake. It's often like they are the kind of kiddos that tend to wake up big and like go from 0 to 1,000,000 as far as their regulation goes, or at least outwardly look that way. And then we're like, let's play with how we're responding. Not by like reducing our response, but like let's play around and see if we can help them de-escalate faster. Let's think about regulation headed into bedtime. Let's think broadly about regulation throughout the day. Let's think about more targeted regulation, sensory, movement, grounding at bedtime. And then let's think about in the moment, are there things that we do or don't that help? Are there things that we do that actually amp them up more, right? Some kids pausing before you respond gives them a little time, and that's okay. And some kids, it amps them up more. Some, it's like give them the bottle right away versus rocking them right away versus sitting beside them. How are they responding to the ways that we are responding to them? And that can take some experimenting. And some kiddos are just awake and then they kind of get more and more agitated, like they can't get comfy and they can't get back to sleep. So are there things that we could do? Could we change what we're doing to soothe them to see if it is helpful, right? Sometimes we need to have some more active soothing. We need some deep pressure. We need some rhythmic movement, right? And sometimes when nothing works, we just need to say, okay, as the parent, conserve energy, stay with them, but rest your body, right? Rest your body so that we're not trying actively to soothe the baby for an hour or two when nothing's really working. And so that's kind of like manage your own regulation in the middle of what is a tough, long wake up. So a one-off of a long wake isn't really something to worry about. It's hard, but they can happen. If they're starting to cluster, think about their development, right? Think about their sleep distribution and think about their regulation. Those are the areas that are likely going to really help you troubleshoot the things that we can control. Now, we can't control development, but we can offer them more play opportunities to practice that new skill. So hopefully it integrates faster, right? So they master the movement patterns faster. And sometimes that will help speed up the disruption to sleep. So that eases more quickly. But we can play around with sleep distribution. We can play around with regulation tools and we can see if we can bring that down. And the unfortunate thing is that some babies are just way more prone to this than others. And of course, you want to make sure that you have good sleep hygiene, that we're not turning on lights in the middle of the night, that we are helping them have a strong melatonin release at bedtime with dim lights and morning sunlight and, all naps and light, all the things that we know help support good physiological readiness for sleep. So we know we don't want to forget about those things or possible discomforts, watching, are they stooling every day? Do they have like eczema or something that would be itchy to them, right? Like we don't want to forget about those things. But I do find that development, sleep sort of distribution, sleep pressure, sleep total, scheduling pieces, and regulation are some of our big areas for those really long wakes. So you're not alone. So many parents struggle with them. If they're really tough, reach out. I'd love to troubleshoot with you. But I hope you found this helpful. And like I said, for a more systematic way of going through these, check out the blog post linked in the show notes. Thank you for joining me today. I hope this episode left you feeling more informed, confident, and encouraged on your sleep journey. And just a reminder before you go that nothing in this episode is individualized to your specific sleep situation, nor is it to be taken as medical advice. Take what resonates, ignore what doesn't, and check with your healthcare provider about any medical concerns. Take a moment to subscribe to this podcast so that you'll never miss an episode. And take a moment to rate, review, or share an episode you love on social media. All of that helps parents just like you find me, this podcast, and this gentle and responsive sleep information. I'll see you next time.